Like you said, my name's Ben Pasquinelli. I live in Alabama, but I'm actually an Ohio boy. Grew up in Grove City, so it's nice to come back home for a visit, and then I'm going back. But you guys, it's too cold up here. Um, and but all joking aside, it's nice to be back in the area. I actually had one of my brother lives up in Kettering, and it's not for a few years. But like you said, the class today is on, of course, our product, but we will start with IAQ General to begin with, just to say why you need a product to begin with. If you have any questions as we go along, just please ask. You can stop me at any time, slow me down at any time. When I get going, sometimes I get going pretty good. So if you need to slow me down, please do. Of course, indoor air quality is a big part of what we do, right? It's been really had a spotlight in the last few years, especially with COVID. With all the bad that comes with COVID, there was some good stuff, and that the good thing is that our customers are more aware of indoor quality than they ever have. Before, it was kind of a harder sell because you'd have to explain to them why they needed it and then what you had. Now everybody knows they need it. Now you just have to say, this is what I have. But there is some other aspects of the indoor air quality I'd like to cover, just to kind of give you a general introduction to it. I actually do a complete indoor air quality class, and it's a lot longer than this. So this really is kind of an introduction to indoor air quality. There's some parts of it we'll just touch real briefly on, just to let you know that there is those aspects of it that you need to address. Indoor air quality, of course, IAQ. It's increasingly sensitive as energy concerns have resulted in tighter buildings. As they start to make buildings tighter and tighter, it holds in more of the VOCs, more of the carpet glues, the furniture paint, the paints, all the different things that we breathe. As the houses get so tight, that natural release just doesn't happen. So we tend to hold a lot more inside of a building. Unfortunately, that means we're breathing more. So that is part of the concern. And experts agree the HVAC system is the most vital component in addressing the indoor air quality. So the indoor air quality, of course, it means you have a big hand in, right? Now, it can cause everything from sick building syndrome. Sick building syndrome is honestly where the building's making the occupants sick. So you hear a lot of this in commercial, where people complain of headaches, nausea. There's something in that environment, whether it's chemically related, that is actually making people ill. And then it can affect everything from worker production, loss of productivity, damage to equipment, damage to materials, etc. So it is a billion-dollar part of our industry. Now, in a house, there's a lot of different contaminants that we may not think about. Like I said, the cleaners underneath the sink, the different carpets, the glues in the carpets, all the way through. And we're seeing it affect more and more of our equipment, especially as the houses get tighter and even as the equipment changes. I know down in Florida right now, they're having a real big problem with a thing called white slime. And it's because of the metals have changed and the environment is attacking the metals and it's causing a slime to grow on the coils. So they'll put a brand new system in a couple of weeks. It actually slimes up the entire condensate to where it just doesn't move water. So that's on a brand new install. So you're seeing more and more of that environmental reaction to it. Now, when we're talking about indoor air quality, it is different than viral control. I told you during the pandemic, it would pretty put a highlight on it. And it was kind of neat. I sat in a lot of different seminars during the pandemics because we weren't doing anything. So I went and listened to everyone I could. And one of my favorite ones I listened to was a virology guy. And he was just talking about how viruses spread in an environment. Now, it really throws in the face of how we design a system for heating and air, right? So when we're designing a system for heat and air, we're thinking about the heat loss. We want to make sure we put registers next to windows, put return, in a central location, etc. But what they found out was that's not inducive to spreading the viruses. So what they were starting to look at was when you're in this perfect example, actually, in this environment, if you look at all your supplies, they're all central to where you guys are sitting, right? Well, where's the return? Way over here and over here. So where's the two worst places to be in this room right now? where I'm at and where he's at. Why? Because whatever happens, if that man in the back sneezes, it has to come past everybody this way to either go to that return or this return. So what they found out was just how things move with a viral load. It made more sense in a classroom or a place with a lot of people to move the returns in the middle of the room. That way, if something happens, it pulls it right back out of the room. So then this is kind of what this slide was. It was kind of neat because it really does talk different of like everything when we design a room for heat load than it does for viral loads. So you're going to start to see more, especially institutionals, where they're looking at how the viruses move more than how the air moves, right? Because it's not a heat concern. It's more of, hey, if that guy in the back sneezes, where's it going? And it was kind of funny. I did this presentation at our sales meeting, and we had a guy in there with the flu, and I did the exact same thing. Was talking about, hey, here's a return. This guy's here sick. It's going to make everybody in that path sick. We had 26 people in that room leave with the flu by the end of our sales meeting, us included. We don't like that guy no more. But but I was like, proof was right there. But it really does show you, and they've seen this, especially in a bus, a school bus. They said this is where most school buses are designed, where there's only one supply and one return. So anything that happens in the front of the bus gets pulled all the way back to the back of the bus. So kids just constantly share all of the different, diseases and bacteria and viruses, etc. So it's just kind of a neat little thing. So when you're talking about viral load, it is different than just regular heat load. But what can cause poor IAQ outside of that, just the normal indoor air quality? A poor building design. Quality of recirculated air is a big one, right? So we just talked about that. The recirculation of whatever happens in this room gets pulled through the system, brought back in over and over and over again. So that can be contaminated up to 5 times more than the air outside. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes the fresh air outside of the building isn't fresh. And we've seen that especially during the forest fires out of Canada. So you would see all those particulates coming down from Canada. We had that orange cloud. Remember, everybody's hiding from it. So sometimes it's not always the case. And then in a condition like a factory, it could be up to 1,000 times more contaminated, just because of the different particulates in the air and the different chemicals, etc. Now, HVAC equipment design is a big one. If the system's oversized, if it's undersized, if the ductwork's falling apart, if it's not piped right, etc. So that one is one that's more on us, right? So this is something we can affect and something we can correct. And then chemical and biological contamination. Now that sounds kind of, where am I going to get into chemical or biological contamination? I always tell everybody to go to Walmart. If you think of a Walmart, as big as that building is, how many different chemicals is under that one roof? So you have the automotive department next to the paint department, next to the dog food, next to you have so many different chemicals, so many different contaminants, and then you add 100 people in there with all of their contaminants. So you can see real quickly how that contamination can build up. Improper handling of water leaks is a big one, to a point where most of your insurance policies, your homeowner insurance policies, have excluded that because that's a maintenance thing. If you didn't maintain it, that's your fault. But it is something that can cause other problems. So if you don't handle a water leak, you can cause mold or another biological growth, and then that can cause more problems. Airborne particulate, of course, that's a big one, especially with the forest fires, etc. And organic contaminants as far as the mold, the mildew, bacteria. Now, I always tell everybody here in our industry, that mold word, unless you're a mold remediation expert, don't ever use that word. That's a legal word that you want to stay away from. I always tell everybody, I see a biological growth, not sure what it is. If they press you on it, tell them to be a mold remediation expert. Why? Because if you claim it, or if you name it, you claim it. More or less, if you tell a customer you have mold, now you're responsible for treating that mold. So don't ever tell a customer they have or classify what they have. It is a legal term, and you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. So when you see a growth, some sort of black growth, that's all I'd call it. You have some sort of biological growth. We have a lot of products that can help treat it. If you notice, I didn't say get rid of it. I said treat it. Treat it means it might come back, because if you didn't correct the situation, then it will come back. So those are the two words that I always kind of remind company owners and workers to use: growth and treat. Don't ever use the word mold. Don't ever use the word kill. Now, course, part of our job is to make sure that, you know, we inspect it. As we get into the products, the ancillary products, I want to make sure that we're not putting them in something that looks like this. Unfortunately, this is what happens a lot of times is guys will go, hey, you need an IAQ product, and then they'll put it in something that looks like this. So that's shame on you, right? And then they'll call me up and say, hey, your product's not working. And I'm like, well, what? You go out and they're like, well, yeah, you got rat turds in the, you know, the return, and everything's falling apart. So it is your job, of course, to make sure that it is in a condition that will accept some sort of a piece of IAQ equipment. Anybody that tells you they have a piece of equipment that fixes that, they're lying to you. You need to actually physically fix it and clean it. But you have some of those guys that just sell pieces of equipment, right? So again, I always like to remind people of that. Now, what can the effects of poor IAQ? How can you see them, or how they affect people? It varies from person to person. Some people are very resilient, and some people, I call them canaries. They're the first to go, right? So you can see we can have everything from headaches to irritation to eyes, nose, throat, skin, coughing, chest pain, fatigue, headaches, muscle aches, irritability, and on and on. So it is a wide spectrum, and it can be everything from unnoticed to really life-threatening. So some people, it can make them sick to a point of death, depending on if they have a reaction to the mold, spores, or et cetera, and what kind of growth you see in there. Unfortunately, a lot of times they can be misdiagnosed. So somebody just don't feel good all the time. They think they're having problems with the flu, or, you know, having some sort of allergies, et cetera, when it's actually more serious. Now, it comes down to, a lot of times, if the system is properly maintained and the system, or should say installed, it is the maintenance of the system, right? So if it's not maintained properly, if it's not maintained properly, that's on the customer. And if you're the one that has the PM contract on it, it's on you. Now, it is one of those things too, and I always remind everybody, PMs are great, preventive maintenance are great if we do them. But if you have a preventive maintenance contract with a customer, understand that is a legal document saying that, hey, I am charging you to maintain this system, and if something comes up, that's on you. So you want to make sure you are looking for these things, taking care of these things. And I've seen, I'm national, so I'm all over the country, and I've seen actually in the Atlanta market where a HVAC company improperly installed a system in a under a crawl space. They put it actually just right in the dirt. It just is what they did. So it ended up growing a mold inside of the system. The homeowners were both lawyers. They hired inspectors to come out and said, yes, the mold that's in your house is because of an improper install. They had to demolish the house and build the lady a new house. And it wasn't a small house. It was a multi-million-dollar home. So, and put her up for a year in a hotel while they was building her house. So it was to that point. So again, I always tell everybody, if you can affect it, but also understand that this is something that is serious, especially with more and more litigation. Now, dirty HVAC equipment can cause a loss of efficiency, cost you more to operate. We all know that if it can't breathe, it can't release heat, it's going to run longer, etc. But then also the mold, bacteria, and harmful biogrowth can make people sick, and then cause up to moisture entrapment as well. Now, one of the big things, I always tell everybody, I wish we had a product that did humidification, dehumidification, but we don't. But it is a huge part of IAQ. Very quickly, just touch on it. This is another factor. If we have improper humidification in a system, whether there's too much humidity or not enough, that has to be corrected as well. So a lot of these products, the air purification products or UV systems, etc., can't do anything to affect the humidity, but that will affect your IAQ. And where should the humidity be? Between 30 to 50%. Why? Anything below 30%, we get too dry, especially this time of year if they're running electric heat. It shows up as migraines, shows up as nosebleeds, headaches, etc. for the homeowner. How many of you had a mom or grandma that would boil water in the in the wintertime, right? That's because she understood we need more humidity in the air. Sometimes we forget that, and that's our job. But that is a part of that factor. You can start having furniture damage, etc. And then on the other side, when we get above 50%, we have that problem a lot down in the south, is we start to have an environment that grows stuff, right? So it gets too wet, gets too humid, we start to have problems with different molds and bacteria that love that environment, and it can increase and make it grow a lot quicker. And honestly, without the right humidity level too, you can add an additional IAQ product like a UV light and cause it to grow quicker. They found out, especially with the biofilm on the coils, UVs do a great job of shining on the surface, keeping that surface clean, but they also heat up the cabin. So on the off time, it would heat up the backside that it doesn't have the direct contact, and especially that white slime I was telling you about, it would actually increase the growth rate. It wouldn't actually slow it down. So the surface where it shined on looked great, but the backside was, turboed. So again, humidity is a large part of it. Now we have our 4-step IAQ Assurance Program. It's part of the, we do have pamphlets that we can customize, kind of like these little trifolds, which is nice. You can give the homeowner that says, hey, these are the steps that I'm going to do when I do a preventive maintenance contract. We're going to clean it, which restores the design efficiency, reduces energy costs, and threats to air quality. We can help protect it. We have products that enable the coil to stay cleaner for longer periods of time, makes the next cleaning easier. Then we have ways to control it, whether it's some of our products we'll go over as far as the chemical side or mechanical side, and then we can help prevent future problems. So this is kind of our 4-step program. Now, one of the problems, of course, is a dirty evaporator coil. Now, I've been in this industry actually since high school, so for 30 years, but I've been with this company for about 18 years. And one of the questions I always get when I do like a counter day, you guys all come see us, our products. First question I always get is, hey, what's your best coil cleaner? That's what we're known for, New Bright coil cleaners. And I always say, the best one is the best one for that job, because we make 26 different coil cleaners. Now, this is the next thing too, is I'll ask them what they're doing with it. Well, I'm cleaning a coil. All right. If you're just cleaning the coil, what you've told me, by definition, is I'm taking and moving something out of the way for airflow. If there's any kind of biological growth, I leave that behind. So if there's any kind of odor problems, it will come back. So especially with that dirty sock smells, a lot of guys will say, hey, I cleaned the coil and came right back. I said, that makes sense. Well, I'll use your product. I'm like, makes sense. Because if you used a cleaner, which 24 of the 25, ours are, that's exactly what you did, was just moved things to the side. So you need another product, which is a disinfectant, to actually take and to kill the bacteria causing those different problems. But a dirty evaporator coil can cause everything from poor IAQ problems. It can help put a biofilm onto the coil. The biofilm is a layer of growth that actually affects the heat transfer. So you have efficiency problems. It helps distribute pathogens in the space. If you don't know how mold grows, it actually grows, it blooms, gets into the airflow, moves, replants, grows, blooms, replants. That's why eventually it will come out to the ductwork. It can cause dirty sock smells, the different odors off of the coils. You have problems, of course, cooling properly with airflow, etc. And of course, the energy cost. Now, we do have a lot of different cleaners, and we have a few disinfectants. So our cleaners, here is some of our regular cleaners for the indoors. Would be your HD Cal Clean, Evap-Foam No Rinse, Evap-Power-C, Cal-Bright. All those products are just cleaners. So I can clean something that has a growth on there, it will come back. But they're good for moving the air. Now, if I want to make sure that I clean and disinfect, the only ones on this page is the Evap-Fresh and the ViroGuard. Our number one cleaner that we have for years is your Evap-Foam No Rinse. Everybody knows that little green can non-rinse. It's our number one product. It should not be, because for 80 cents more, Evap-Fresh No Rinse is the exact same soap, but with a hospital disinfectant. So we can do both. We can actually clean and disinfect at the same time. So if you're using Evap-Foam, just upgrade from, like I said, less than $1 to the Evap-Fresh, and you're going to do both. You'll clean and disinfect. Now, the ViroGuard is a newer product, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we can also help you get to the products that are the areas you can't see, the ductwork. Because like I said, it starts usually in the evaporator, but then it sends it down through the ductwork. Especially if you have the line ductwork, it's a great environment for things to grow. Unfortunately, this was a job I got called out on. A contractor had just took over a preventive maintenance contract for a nursing home. This was the nursing home's main air conditioning system. But the sad part was there was a company for the last 8 years that charged this nursing home to maintain their system. He's like, "What do I do?" I said, "Well, don't tell anybody I was up here first." But no, he was doing a bid on it, and I said, "Honestly, you need to, get a duct cleaning company in here and clean this all out, and maybe replace some of the duct work." But this, I mean, it was thick enough you could with your fingers knock off the growth. Now, I told you the Evap-Fresh. The Evap-Fresh is a great product because the Evap-Fresh is a hospital-grade disinfectant with a cleaner. So this kills outside of the body everything from HIV, SARS, Legionnaires, tuberculosis, hepatitis, all in a product where I don't have to wear a respirator, which is nice. It has no odor when it's in a gallon, because sometimes a fragrance, some people twofold. One, they think you're covering something up. If I put a fragrance on top of something, they're like, "Yeah, you just covered it up, you Febrezed it or something." And then the other one is, if you've been in this industry long enough, some people are just crazy. So if you put any kind of fragrance inside that ductwork and they smell it, they now have a headache and they want to go home. Now, these are EPA registered products, so it is safe for that environment. It's safe for this application. And I always tell everybody that's important when you're looking at these chemicals, to make sure that you buy a product for this industry. Can I use a bleach and a Lysol and etc.? You can, but then the legality's on you. We've paid for the EPA to say we can use it in this industry. So it might even look like or on the MSDS be the same chemical, but if they don't have that certification to it, then the legality's on you instead of us. So it's a CYA thing. Now, this is my favorite new product, the ViroGuard. The reason why, it came out during the pandemic. It is one of the products that is effective on the virus that causes COVID-19, the COVID-2. But that's not what excited me. The fact is, it's the only product that we've ever had that on the label is for Legionnaires. So if you know anything about Legionnaires, you'll hear a lot of it in hospitals, a lot of it in nursing homes, etc. And if it's not on the label, it doesn't matter if that chemical works or not. It has to be on the label for you to use it. So that is a labeled product for Legionnaires. Now, once we clean it, we can actually seal it and protect it. Now, this is a twofold thing. This is CalShield. CalShield is a liquid Teflon, kind of like what you would put on a cooking pan, etc. So it will protect that metal from corrosion, but also this is our last step in dirty sock. We clean, we disinfect, and then we seal the metal with CalShield because it seals the pores to where something can't get into the pores and grow. You would have to reapply it on a yearly basis. It doesn't have any heat transfer problem, but normal coils are porous. So what happens is the dirt gets in and it flattens out. So it makes it real hard to get up underneath it, just physically, water to remove it. So what it does is like kind of waxing a car. It allows the dirt in the water to beat up to where it runs off in regular condensation and easier to clean off. Now, CalShield, this is the product we're talking about. And all these should be in your little green book. So CalShield is a liquid type Teflon. It's ready to use. We can take it and we can spray it on the surface after we've cleaned it and rinsed it off. Clean it and disinfect it. Last step's CalShield. It doesn't take much. It will not build upon itself. So what you spray on there, the first initial pass is all it's going to take. If you keep spraying it, it just runs down the drain. So at that point, you're just wasting it. So that helps control it from, again, once we've cleaned it and we've disinfected it to the point where it starts to come out into the living space. So with that, where, in between time of us actually doing our preventive maintenance, we don't have problems spreading throughout the system. And then we also have the product called BioFresh, and the BioFresh is a product that can be used after we clean and disinfect as a leave behind. Where your disinfectants are really good at right now attacking what it's at, but they use up, right? So once we've used it, there's not a lot of residual. So this has that residual, the BioFresh does, because it is a product that has the ability to build kind of a barrier protection for it. Now, it can be used in our fogger. This is our fogger. So that ductwork that we've seen, be able to disinfect it, the areas we can't reach. We actually put the BioFresh in here, and then we can fog through the ductwork. If you're familiar with the duct cleaning companies, when they charge a little bit extra to sanitize at the end, that's what they're doing. They're spraying something like this throughout the ductwork. It is motorized. It is a tool. It's a good way to make a little extra money too. Again, that product does not have any fragrance or odor to it. We do have a few products that do have fragrances to it. So if you want to leave behind a cherry smell or orange smell, we'll show you those products as well. Now, as part of your IAQ, this one always cracks me up. Let's just add a better filter, right? And we heard a lot of this during the pandemic. Hey, MERV 13 or better, let's add a better filter to the system. We know you can't just add a better filter, right? So this one I put on here because I thought it was funny, but unfortunately, I'm sure you guys have seen stuff like this, to where somebody just heard on the news to go get a better filter. We know that it's a cause and effect kind of thing. If I put a thicker filter that slows down and causes static problems, we're going to have problems with the system. We start losing motors, we start losing compressors, we have humidity problems, we have static problems, etc. So it's not just as easy as adding a better filter. But why are they even talking about adding a better filter? Is because they're trying to catch smaller stuff. So if you understand the MERV rating on a filtration system, the higher the number, the smaller the something I can catch. So as they got into the pandemic, they did a really big push for MERV 13, MERV 13, MERV 13. Why? Because MERV 13 can now start to catch not viruses, but what they call virus carriers, what carries a virus from person to person. It was the whole idea of wearing a mask, right? Can I catch the COVID itself? No. Can I catch maybe the dust that was carrying it? Yes. Can I catch maybe the water molecule that's catching it? Yes. They didn't do a really good job of explaining that. So everybody, it was kind of a, well, you can't catch a virus. That's true, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're actually trying to catch stuff that was carrying things back and forth. So kind of to show you what size-wise, this here is a piece of sand. This piece of sand is about 90 microns, so just a single piece of sand. So as you go down, a pollen that we still can see, is still visible to the eye, is anywhere between 10 to 100 microns, depending on the size of it. Dust, less 10 microns or less. Pet dander, 0.5. Wildfire smoke, 0.1 to 0.7. One of the things I thought was funny was during the pandemic with the push for the mask, they pushed with the pandemic, wear a mask, wear a mask, wear a mask. And then during the wildfires, they told you, well, a mask won't work. But if you look at the physical size, it's kind of like, wait a minute. We pushed for one, but we didn't push for the other. So it was kind of silly. But it was the whole idea of just trying to catch what we can. We knew we couldn't stop 100%, but we can slow it down. Now, again, that MERV rating, as we go up in the numbers, we start to actually catch virus carriers. If you notice, this is not a virus filter. It just can now start to catch the bigger or the little smaller stuff that carries this viruses from person to person. Bacteria and viruses here at the end as we get into MERV 13. We also need to know that that filter has to be able to fit that system, right? So if we have a system that's not designed for it, if we don't have the right proper seal around the filter, it will find the path of least resistance. How many of you guys seen the filters like this, right? You get in there and it doesn't fit, it's half the size. Or it's too big and it's hanging out the unit, etc. So it has to make sense. It has to have the system designed for it. The filter has to be, everything has to be sealed as far as ductwork, because if it is a tight fit, then it's going to look for other ways to bypass the filter, etc. And we see a lot of this. So again, it's a good idea to improve your filtration, but we have to do it in a smart way. Now, ASHRAE does say, hey, let's do that when we can. Let's add at least a MERV 13 or higher filter on these systems. Again, why? Because we can start to catch the smaller stuff, but they agree with what we just talked about. They say, hey, the higher efficiency now requires, it says the higher efficiency does not come without a penalty, and it talks about some of the things that we talked about. Now, when we're getting into, now that we kind of talked real quick about the things we need to fix to make sure that we're okay, now we can kind of slow down and look at some of the products that we can add to the system now that we've got the system to where we need to be. One of the first products that I want to show you is for surface treatment of the coil, which is the Scorpion. It's a LED UV-C light. So this is the only purpose of this type of technology is to keep a surface clean. The reason I say that is because it's just a personal thing with me. I try not to over promise anything. So this thing here, its job is to shine on the surface, keep that surface clean. Does a really good job of it. So this is for coil treatment, and we just introduced it.
From the indoor air quality experts at Nu-Calgon, introducing Scorpion, the latest weapon against harmful mold, mildew, bacteria, and viruses in your HVAC system. This advanced UVC LED disinfecting system has what other products don't. Scorpion's shatter-proof LED bulbs have up to 5 times the life of standard bulbs. The system features unique dual run mode options, always on or airflow sensor mode that activates the Scorpion when air passes over it. Scorpion offers a unique integrated magnet for the quickest installation, or use the supplied hardware for an easy alternative. Let's go inside and see how it works. Unprotected coils quickly attract all sorts of harmful contaminants: mold, mildew, bacteria, viruses, and more. These contaminants restrict airflow and hurt air quality in your home or office. The Scorpion fights back by emitting the optimum 265 nanometer wavelength of light in 360 degrees for complete treatment of the coil to quickly improve air quality and restore maximum airflow to the unit. The Scorpion has been validated through third-party lab testing to reduce tested pathogens, including E. coli, staph, and mold up to 99% in 10 minutes or less. The Scorpion also reduced 99.9% of coronavirus in only 2 seconds. It also meets the stringent UL 29980 ozone emission certification. The Scorpion comes in 2 versions, the LX15 for low voltage and the HX15 for high voltage. The Scorpion joins Nu-Calgon's other IAQ products to create a full line of proven air quality equipment solutions. Scorpion UVC LED disinfecting system, only from Nu-Calgon.
All right, so what makes this different than a traditional glass tube mercury bulb? First off, there's no bulb. So you see all these little points, and we'll pass it around, is LED points. So you have LED lights that cause the UVC and achieves the disinfection. So I don't have to worry about breaking it. I don't have to worry about touching it, and I don't have to worry about replacing bulbs. This can bounce around the back of the truck. We've actually got right now a video on social media where our product manager is throwing these off the roof, and then he throws, of course, glass mercury bulbs off, and it doesn't end well for them. But it just shows that, hey, this can bounce around with you, and which makes it nice because I can present it to a homeowner and install it at the same time. Where a lot of times you have to present it and then go back, pick it up, and bring it back and hope that you don't break it on the way. So this is really nice. Has a magnet for install, so we can really easily just put it on the inside of the system if we need to, or we can put it through the duct like they showed there, or through the coil. Now, the other difference between this and a traditional mercury bulb, though, is the way a mercury bulb works. I always tell everybody, almost everything they tell you about a mercury bulb is for the health of the bulb, not really for the way it helps the homeowner. One of the things I'll tell you is continuously run it. Why? Because a mercury bulb, it has a gas in there, it has to heat up to get to a point to where it starts to disinfect. So that ramp up and ramp down time takes a while, but that's what actually wears it out. This doesn't. This is instantly on. That's why we have a 2-second kill rate on the virus that causes COVID-19. So we don't have that ramp up, ramp down time. That heat up period is why they will tell you that when possible, put it before the coil, not after the coil. Why? Because the temperature difference of the coil air will actually affect the output. This one doesn't. This one can go above, below, around, wherever I can get best coverage, you can put this. So therefore, we're not temperature sensitive, which is nice. That's also why, where I told you they don't want theirs ramped on and off, we added a sensor in here that actually senses when the fan comes off and on, where it can turn itself off and on. So with normal 100% always on, you get about 3 years. It's a 3-year warranty, 3 years at 100%. If I take and put this on cycle, it activates that fan switch, and now I can get up to 10 years. So it actually, depending on how much you use the system, of course, it's 33,000 hours, but it will actually cycle itself off and on. So I could literally take and plug this into a wall socket and turn it to cycle, and it's doing its own thing. I do ask, because we have 2 versions. We have a high voltage, which this one is, H. That one you just wire on. The low voltage one, please give it its own transformer. I don't like being on people's boards because I don't know what their boards are doing, right? So I'd rather you, even if you do buy the low version, give it its own transformer. That's why I like the high voltage better. You just put it in. It was kind of funny because I just asked them, I said, why we even come out with a low voltage version? Because the high makes more sense to me anyway. And then I forgot, some of the New England states are union, and the union states do not allow you guys to wire up high voltage. So they actually have to have, they do everything else, and then an electrician comes behind them and finishes the job. So therefore, they can install that on site if we give them a low voltage one. Kind of silly, but hey, we have it. I'll pass that around.
Is that replaceable?
Now, that good question. So when this thing goes away, we just unplug the whole thing, throw it away, and put another one in. So there's no bulbs to match up. There's no, the whole unit is a unit. So we just take it out. There's no ballast that we replace, no bulbs to replace. It's a complete unit. 3-year warranty. If anything happens in 3 years, they get a new one. It's pretty easy. Retail on that is roughly about $235 is your cost on there. So which is really right where it should be, especially when they're getting at least 3 years, if not 10, depending on the application. It is still the same UV that is forever, right? So UV is aggressive. So it's one of those things that I wouldn't want direct contact with something that's not UV resistant as far as a filter. If a filter normally would be eaten by UV, then yeah, it would be eaten by this UV. Because it's no, it's actually a little bit on the spectrum. It's a little higher on the spectrum, which gives it a higher kill rate on things. But it's still, I wouldn't want to look at it. I wouldn't want to, shine on things it shouldn't shine on. So all of that's still in effect. We had a guy, it wasn't our product, but doing training a couple years ago, I had a service manager tell me his installers didn't have work lights. So they did have some UV lights on their truck, and they put them up under the house to work by, which is not good. Of course, they were in the hospital at the end of the day, and had pretty good tans. But it was, again, UV again is, and that's why actually this is the kind of the funny thing is if you understand, especially the LED wavelength, we can't see it. So with it on, you would not be able to see it. So when they brought this out to me, they said, hey, what do you think? And I said, it's not blue, it's not working. And the guy laughed. He goes, well, you can't see that wavelength. I said, it's not blue, it's not working. And then he caught on. I said, it has to have that blue tint because guys are used to seeing it. And two, guys, when they open the cabinet, have to see something to know to turn it back off. So when you see the light on this, it is a different hue of blue than you might be used to. But that doesn't play into the effectiveness of the light. It's truly just a light to let you know it's on. So there's two sets of LEDs on there. One is doing a disinfecting, and one is just a light to let you know the bulb's on. It's kind of funny because I had an argument with a UV guy. Your blue light's not as bright as ours, so it's not as strong. I'm like, our light's just a light. It's like, so just kind of a heads up on that. The other technology, of course, is out there. I call it reactive technology. The UV lights react with a metal. They create a hydroperoxide gas, and that hydroperoxide gas is where they're doing their disinfecting. That's where they do their odor removal, etc. Does it work? Yeah, of course it works. It's been around for a while. The differences, of course, is it's glass bulbs, it's mercury systems, and this type of system too. There's usually an odor associated with it, or and so you have that in consideration as well. We don't do the reactive technology, and then of course that bottom was just that mercury bulb. That's what that light is for. That's just to replace this system. It's not a air purification system like the ones on the top. And again, I just want to make sure that's clear, because some people are like, well, this is a lot cheaper than a Remy Halo. It's not a Remy Halo. Remy Halo or one of the air scrubbers or anything else, that's that reactive technology. And that's how that works. If you ever wonder, it has a catalyst, it has a UV light that has a metal, which is a catalyst, creates their oxidizers. And I pulled this from their website because I never wanted to misquote what this is. So this is not what I say, this is what they're saying. And this is how they achieve what they're claiming they achieve. And then the only other difference in the technology, there's one company out there, everybody else calls theirs PCO, photocatalytic oxidation. That's that reaction between the light and the metal. There is one company calls theirs PHI. The end result's the same, it's just a different marketing term. And they use the differences where they tell you what their metal is. They use 4 unique metals. They won't tell you what they are. So that's how they're achieving their PHI instead of their PCO. Now, we do something different for air purification. Our air purification or air treatment is achieved with bipolar ionization. How many of you have done the iWave or bipolar product? So this is what our other part of it. So that is a surface treatment. This is more for the living space. Do I need both? Is good, better, best. If I want to do a coil treatment, that would be achieved with a coil treatment. If I want to do treat the air that I'm breathing, then I would need a product like this. So good, better, best. If I just want to put this in and put it before a coil, it's going to treat some of the coil, but it's going to use up through the coil before it gets into the living space. So better would be to put this in the supply side, and we'll talk about that more, but we'll put this in the supply side and put that on the coil. That's the best of both worlds. Let it do its job as far as treating the coil, then let this do the job of the living space kind of thing. Now, so what this is a needle point bipolar ionization in NPBI, and it's also what they call soft ionization. So during the pandemic, it was one of the things that came from the pandemic is we sold a lot of this stuff, but because we sold a lot of this, we had a lot of attention, right? So a lot of the focus was put on this technology to prove that it works. Prove it works. You're taking all this federal money, prove that it works. And we actually even had a couple lawsuits where we had to, just because people were bashing us, a lady that we had to sue her for slander because she was out there telling people all kinds of stuff. She lost the slander lawsuit because she just didn't understand what she was saying. She did. She was just writing articles trying to get the business back to the UV systems is what it was. But what this is called soft ionization. Soft ionization, the category doesn't cause fracturing. Fracturing is what the older, the hard ionization does. Hard ionization is what actually the argument was about. And what hard ionization does is tear things apart and can leave other byproducts. This product doesn't because we control the output. So it's called soft ionization and it's bipolar. Why bipolar? Because it purposely produces one's always negative, one's always positive in ionization. Why? Well, if we have just positive ions that come off of this thing, that's static electricity. There's no benefits from them. We charge surfaces, we charge things. What they found out though is the negative ionization that we produce is where all your health benefits come from. But if you just do negative ionization, you charge surfaces as well. So therefore, they found out if they produce both at high levels, we can get the health benefits from negative ionization, and then the positive ionization cancels the negative out. So it has a very short life period. We have no charging of surfaces. We have no fracturing. We have no ozone. We have all the health without any of the negatives. So that's why it's called bipolar. You have to produce both. There was actually companies out there that were doing little portable ones that were just all negative ionizers. They got sued out of existence because they would charge all your walls and the dust would attach to the walls. So that was one of the negatives of that technology. So therefore, bipolar, if you're doing ionization, it has to be bipolar, and it has to be a high enough, because they are sacrificial, they are designed to cancel each other out. It has to be at a high enough output, understanding that you're going to lose a lot of them just in production. Now, what can we do with it? We can reduce airborne and surface bacteria and viruses. We can reduce harmful airborne particulates and VOCs. VOCs are volatile organic compounds, odors. That's your ammonia smells, your formaldehyde smells, those kind of things. We can improve overall efficiency and standard of filtration. I'll show you how we make a filter work better, and is designed to work for up to about 10 years without any replacement parts. All this does have a 3-year warranty. Now again, this soft ionization, the biggest takeoff of this is that we control the output. That's why when we talk about wiring these things, these are multi-voltage. From green is ground and black and white is power. Any power I give it from 24 to 240, it self-adjusts and runs, but it always steps it back down to that low voltage. So does it work better at the high voltage? No, I'm going to step it back down to control it to make sure it stays into this soft ionization realm. Now we have 2 different name brands of the same type of product. We have our original iWave that we've had out for years. The iWave name, a very established name, it's about 7 years old. And then last year we produced the NuShield. Now, what's the main difference between the iWave and the NuShield? We'll cover that. They both, all of our products now are self-cleaning except for the little mini split one, and we'll talk about that as well. Now, what can we do with these? So I can't do anything in humidity. Told you we want to make sure our humidity is right. We want to make sure the system's clean, put together, not falling apart, etc. So once we have that environment the way we should, I can help on an ongoing basis with particulate. That's your dust, your dander, your pollen. These are things that make us have allergies, reactions, etc. These are also, I told you, are the carriers though for viruses, right, from person to person. So the less time that those are in the airflow, the better. Now I can also affect the pathogens, bacteria, and viruses, and we'll talk about that. And then I can also drop out VOCs, those are your odors inside the house. Now, the first thing I always tell anybody, what does this technology, bipolar ionization, do better than any other technology? It is particulate reduction. I can get what's floating around you out of the air very quickly. And why is that important? We told you, it's triggers for allergies, it's carriers for bacteria, etc. The problem I told you is size, right? How do I get something that I can't even see that the filter, even if I sent it to it, wouldn't be able to catch it? You know, all these things that are so small, you know, that I can't catch. Well, size does matter. So this one here to show you that virus by itself can stay suspended for 13 hours. So a virus by itself could float around for 13 hours. Fortunately, it's not going to hang out by itself. It's going to embed in something else. So usually it'll find a piece of dust or something. So now we're about 8 minutes. That's still a long time. If we have, you know, somebody sneeze in the room, etc., it could be floating for about 8 minutes. Well, if I can get it into at least the size of a piece of sand or the blade of grass or the end of your hair, now it's 5 seconds. Well, how do I achieve that with that charge? That bipolar ionization, that positive and negative charge, charges all those smaller particulates. They attract each other, they clump up together. Now gravity can do one of two things: take it to the ground or take it to your filter. Now it's big enough for your filter to actually catch it, and I can take a regular filter, a MERV 8 filter, and it now works like a MERV 13 or higher because it's catching a bigger something, right? So my job is not to charge that filter and make that filter work better. My job is to charge all the floating stuff and send it to the filter. And that's what it does. And you'll see it as you put these in, filters start to turn colors, especially if they like to burn candles in the environment. You'll see the filters turn black, etc. This is one a customer sent to me on a commercial application. So what happened here was he just wanted to prove it to himself. He wanted to see if it works. This was a factory with office buildings, right? So they had the warehouse attached, kind of like here, warehouse is attached to the office. So he had 3 systems that all had the same exact HVAC system to it, same filtration system. He put 3 brand new filters in, waited a month and went back. These 2 had bipolars in it, this one did not. So same exact time frame, same exact CFM turnovers, etc. So the filter just could not catch what couldn't come to it, right? So what it's doing is it's making the particulate in the air that before they were breathing or would stick on the surfaces big enough or heavy enough to go sent to the filter. And you'll see a lot of this in, like I said, homeowners that like to burn candles. That normal soot that would come off a candle normally would go to a ceiling or go to the floor is now turning the filters black. It freaks people out though when if you don't tell them or warn them. You're shaking your head, so you guys have seen these. So it is one of those things I always tell everybody: when you condition the space at first, the filters are going to look dirtier than they ever have. Why? Because I didn't create more dust. I caught more dust because I brought more dust to it. So I made your filter do its job. And then the with the candles in the air, candles are terrible anyway. You shouldn't burn them. But the you'll see it show up on the filters, and it does show the homeowners that, hey, this is what you've been breathing for years. Now, where else will I see dust more than I normally see dust? Anywhere there's not a return. So I have 2 options: send it to the ground or send it to a filter. So a bathroom, you'll start to see dust maybe on the ground, but now I can sweep it up. I'm not breathing it. Kitchen. Normally the dust, there's no return in a kitchen area, so you might see some tumblers at first just because of the area for it. This is a third-party testing showing that, hey, you can take a regular MERV 8 filter and achieve the same efficiency as a MERV 13. Engineers love this because we can legally, ASHRAE accepts this, so they can, instead of forcing their customers to go to MERV 13, they can achieve it by putting in bipolar ionization. And you can see the reduction on all of it. Now, seeing is believing. We have a little demo we'd like to show you here. You want to run the demo? So this demo here, and
so this demo, this is the iWave, this is the residential one, and all this is just a clear box, and we're gonna pump vape smoke because I don't want to do cigar smoke or anything. So I'm gonna pump this thing full of smoke, and it's gonna be where you can't see it. And after I fill this up with smoke, I'm going to turn the iWave on, and you're going to see like
so let it sit for a second. That way you settle down. Okay. Yeah. You can see, so there's no air movement in that box, right? So there's no fan, and this thing has no fan to it. So when he turns it on, you'll get to see it agitate or charge those particulates. Go ahead. Sorry. I just always like to see it settle for a second.
So it's settled now, and then you just turn it on. I don't know if you guys can see the vortex happening. So what it does, it attacks the particulates, and then it drops to the ground. So all the smoke will actually vanish. This box will be completely clear after like 30, 40 seconds.
You see, quite quickly, it dropped the particulate. Now, did it get rid of the particulate? No, we're not destroying particulate. We're just making it heavy to where it can't be in the airflow, and it drops. In this case, it's a vapor, which some people are like, what about real smoke? Like he said, actually, real smoke's easier because the particulates are heavier anyway to begin with. You have more contaminants in it. So this is actually harder to achieve, but you can see we did it pretty quickly. Now, when we first started doing it, we did these demos. Of course, we carry them around and show people. People call us out about it. That's a box. What about a real house? So our facility that does our testing actually does have chambers. It's an 8x10 room that's where they'll take and they'll pump different smokes. They'll pump in cigar smokes, cedar wood, and they burn with all the forest fires. They'll burn a different particulate to see how long it takes. They move the pathogens around to see what happens with the different pathogens at that time. I'm not going to reduce your dust. I'm going to drop your dust, but now you can sweep it up, and then it won't be there for it to build up. Yeah, plus it won't be there long term. So once you drop it, there's less of it in the air. They'll dust at first, but then there'll be just less dust because we're constantly dropping it. So it will show up as less dusting, but we're not eliminating dust. We're just taking it to the filter now. It's just kind of those weird things because I don't want to overpromise something, right? So and if you don't tell them at the first, and you got somebody that whole reason they thought they was buying it was to eliminate dust in their house, and in the first 2 weeks everything's dusty, they're gonna flip out, especially like my mother-in-law. So I had to say, hey, look, you'll see it first, clean it up, and then it'll be okay. Now, the neat thing is not only are we doing the particulate, dropping it like you've seen, at the same time, we're actually affecting the different growths, the viruses, the bacteria. You see, we have the SARS-CoV-2. That is what causes the COVID-19 once it inhabits the human. The Delta, which is the different variants. We've tested it on all the variants. Not all of them because there's so many of them now, but it's the same virus. It's just a different tweak to it each time. Influenza A, B, RSV. You hear a lot of the RSV on the news here lately. The MRSA, the Staph, the E. coli, all the way through. So what we're doing though is we're inactivating it. So I always tell you, don't use that word kill. Kill means instantly dead, right? It's kind of funny. When we talk about inactivation, it's what it does is it doesn't allow it to replicate and it dies. So eventually we're killing it. We joke about it. It's like if I take and put you in a room and tie you to a chair, did I kill you? You couldn't eat or do anything, but I didn't kill you. You just starved to death. That's what's happening here. But what happened is this word inactivation. It is a key word and it is one that you should use. And so it's well known, this is kind of a write-up during the COVID. So it's well known that the spikes of the SARS, if you remember the SARS, I'm sure everybody remembers the little spiky demon. So it has all those different spikes, right? And that's what they're talking about. The SARS-CoV-2 viruses are positively charged. So a virus that can infect a person, any kind of virus, has to have a positive charge to it. Why? Because our receptors, which are called ACE2 receptors, are negatively charged. So therefore they attract to each other. A virus that's called a simple virus, and I'll show you here in a second, has a negative charge, so it can't invade a human host. So what we're doing is we're messing with the binding affinity or messing with the charge of the virus. So therefore, it says here, bipolar ions in the air help with both reduction by dropping it and inactivation of the enveloped viruses. This is what we're talking about. So if you see this whole list here, most of them were listed on our things that we're effective against. All of these have a some sort of positive charge to it, and then the simple viruses do not. Now, just for your own knowledge, SARS was in this category. SARS-2, once it was changed, gain of function, became enveloped with a positive charge. So it was taken from a virus that we couldn't get, a bat virus, to something that could do it. So this is why it can infect us where before it couldn't, because that's what it looks like now. It has a positive charge. Now the neat thing is, if that's true, if I can affect viruses with the charge of it, why aren't we using this everywhere else? That was my brain, right? We are, and I'll show you. It's pretty cool. But this is what we're doing. So we're taking this positive charge where it normally would track to our ACE2 receptors, and then we mess with that charge to where it actually takes the binding affinity, the ability for it to break apart and away from it. Now, this is what I was talking about. This is just kind of a side note. I thought it was kind of cool. So there is companies out there using nanotechnology to make scrubs for doctors and face masks that have a positive charge to it, to have that natural push away of viruses, which I thought was pretty cool. Makes sense. That's why, if you notice, when we have our SARS-CoV 30-minute 99.4 inactivation rate, in the first 10 minutes, 84, inactivated at 15 minutes, 92.3, and inactivated at 30 minutes. Again, that word inactivated, inactivated, and inactivated. One of the other little demos we do, which kind of show it, because the only complaint about this technology, it's invisible. You can't see it. You can't smell it, right? So we do these little demos where we have bread and water in a jar, one with a bipolar ionizer, one without, and it shows you that it just, in that environment, it just won't grow mold, which is pretty cool. The longest one we had running, me personally, was 4 months. So I had one in 4 months where the bread still looked new. They called me out about it. They were like, well, if it's still good, eat it. So it tasted nasty, but I did it. Yeah. I told our engineer, he goes, why? I said, they called me out about it. Yeah. Now the funnier one though was I went to one of our supply houses that was running this demo, and both of them was moldy. And so I was like, man, they quit working. He goes, no, I'll tell you what happened. He says, we seen the one that was fuzzy and green, and one of the technicians said, what happens if we switch lids? He said, so we switched lids. Because, if it works, switch lids. He said, and we watched it kill all the fuzz, and it turned white, and, it wasn't a new piece of bread, but everything that was growing died. And the other one started to grow. So that way, and then, so every 2 weeks, they were taking turns, they had a sign-up sheet on who got to switch the lids, which is kind of funny. Now, the last thing this thing does is eliminate odors. How do we eliminate odors? The same way we're eliminating the particulates. So what we can do is we can actually charge those particulates. The particulates become too heavy. They drop out of your nose space. They start to decay quicker because they're now out of the area. And that's what that shows. With the actual natural decay, we can increase that VOC decay rate with the iWave. Now, what's the difference between these two products? Honestly, looks, when you come down to it. There is a little key differences. This one here, we can duct mount because it does have the ability to duct mount it. This one does not. So this one doesn't have the ability to duct mount it. The reason being is this one here is rated for no ozone per parts per million. This one is no ozone parts per billion. This one is ASHRAE. Both of them are ASHRAE approved, but this one carries the CARB 2998 listing. So this one has the next listing up, which didn't allow us to duct mount it. So the only thing you lose going from this one to this one is the ability to duct mount it. I always kind of joke and tell everybody this is the prettier sister. Does the exact same thing, but just looks a little bit different. It's the inside of it, they won't know the difference. Now, for commercial though, if you're doing a job that has to be 50 state compliant, this one carries the California listing. So this is the one you'd have to use for 2998. Now this one here in residentially, nobody cares, and is ASHRAE approved for no ozone per the regulations. Now this one here too, far as residential, when we released iWave years ago, we didn't have any policy saying that you couldn't buy it, as far as a wholesaler couldn't buy it from us and then resell it third party, Amazon. This NuShield does. It doesn't matter who buys it from us. Legally, you're not allowed to put it on Amazon. And that protects you from, you know, a homeowner going, well, here it is. So unfortunately, that happens with iWave every now and again. It does. If you didn't know, both of them have a policy that says if it's not bought and installed by a licensed contractor, it is void of warranty. So we always ask you guys, please don't install them if they bought them off of Amazon, because we don't sell them through Amazon, so we can't tell you where they got it from. So all the way through. They all have a 10 to 15 year life expectancy, 3 years. They are all multi-voltage from 24 to 240, same 3 wires. The other 2 wires, which is purple, have a building automated wire. It's a dry contact. Residentially, just cut them off. You have to make these do something. This is kind of like a wet switch. It tells you when it loses power. That's it. But you have to actually make it do that. So residentially, these 3 is the only 3 you need to worry about. Ground it out, give it power, it knows what to do, which is nice. So this is the different validations. 2998, no ozone parts per billion. 867, no ozone parts per million. Both of them are ASHRAE approved. Where to put it? That's what your question a minute ago. Good, better, best kind of thing. Never, ever put it before a filter unless all you want to do is the filter. If I put it before a filter, it charges the filter. The filter becomes a super collector. That's all it does. Put it after the filter before a coil. I go through the coil. I can treat the coil. I can treat the living space, but I'm losing about half of it through the coil because it slows it down. They run into each other. They start to use up. Best place to put this is supply. I dump 100% into the living space, and now I'm getting the most bang for your buck on that product. That's why I said good, better, best kind of thing. If I can put a UV light on the coil and then put this in supply, that is the best application for both. Allow it to go. But can I put it right next to a blower? Yeah, I'm just understand you will use up about half of it going through the system before it gets into the living space. Just the way they're designed. They're designed to cancel each other out. And if anybody tells you different, they just don't understand the technology. One of the things too that I always remind people, if you notice, all of our emitters are in the open. What does that mean? I don't have any kind of casing or housing on top of them. I just told you they're designed to cancel each other out. The stupidest thing, and there's a couple companies out there that do it, is take and put a box on top of this to where it can't get out right away because they sit there and run into each other right away. So just kind of put that in the back of your mind when you're apples for apples comparing technology. I always see it and I always think it's stupid. And then the iWave-C is our commercial. iWave-C is commercial up to 12 tons, works exactly the same. That's this one here. Can I put this residentially? 100%. This is what I have in my house. That's actually the ones we have over here. The best place for this is, again, supply, because I can put 100% of this into the living space. If you have one of the reactive technologies like the Remy Halos or anybody, you can pull it out and put it right in the same hole, which is nice. No replacement bulbs, no replacement products. I get 10 years, and I'm doing the same thing as the other products are doing. Now, it does clean itself every 3 days. All of our models have this here that actually just turns and cleans itself. Now, that's all it does. So if you notice, it wasn't turning in this box the whole time because it wasn't in clean mode. I can force these in the clean mode as same as this one. That's how we test them. And then how do I test them as far as a technician to know if it's still working? Your best friend is a filled piece non-contact meter. There's 100 other brands that might be better for electrician, but for my purpose, I will tell you the filled piece works the best. Yeah, I probably should. So this little filled piece non-contact meter is your best friend for testing this. Why? Because all right, so that's on. See the green light? This is the test mode to see that it does its cleaning cycle. That's what I was talking about. And then this little meter, the longer we have it running, the farther away I can get from this thing. When we're done, you can actually come up here and feel, it feels like airflow coming off of it, but it's not. It's actually the ionization. But that is the easiest way to check those suckers. We have the NuShield version of the C, which is called an X, CX for external. If you notice this, the difference between the NuShield and this one is we don't have a monitor anymore. This monitor, all it does is tells you how many days of operation or how many hours of operation it's been in, and it will tell you that it's on. That's it. Well, what we found out was in an environment like this where we have a big temperature difference between indoors and outdoors, that these would condensate. So water would get in here, not from leaking from the environment, but from actually condensation. So when you put these in, if you want to put these on a outdoor unit, we do ask you to drill a hole here in the bottom, just for a drainage in case there's any condensation. Everything in here is actually water proof. I could plug this in and put it in a bucket and it'd still work. So it's not affecting anything to be wet in there, but it doesn't look good when it's halfway full of water. And it became a warranty problem for us. So we just did away with it. It wasn't really telling you anything. And then what we didn't have before, we now have, before we'd have to, if we want to put it inside a system. Oh, real quick. This is a pretty install, but this is a wrong install. Somebody had sent this picture kind of bragging. I'm like, yeah, it looks really nice. Why? I told you they're designed to cancel each other out, right? So this one runs into this one, runs into this one, runs into this one. If we're going to do a multiple install, that way would be a lot better. Spread them out this way, kind of diagonal. That way they're running this way instead of into each other. Now we have a CI for internal, which we didn't have before with the NuShield family. The CI does the same thing, 12 tons, 4,800 CFM, but it's a lot smaller, and it comes with a magnet, so I can just put it inside the unit like we did here. And then we have one for the mini splits. The one for the mini splits is the, did you bring that on? Is it hiding on me? Oh, thank you. So this one is not a dog collar, but it is a strip. Although if you got a buddy that stinks a lot, you can put it in his belt or something. It does have Velcro to it. The Velcro has makes it real easy to install. Where we're putting this is in a mini split is that little gap behind the A coil, just on the wall of the unit itself. So just Velcro it there. It's a 2-wire install on this one. This one will do 110 all the way to 240 or 277. Make sure that we take and put it only on line voltage, not on communication wire. If you put it on a communication wire, you'll know it because not this, but the actual unit itself will go haywire. So you just move it one leg over and you're fine. So this is a 2-wire install. The nice thing about this is twofold. One, you're getting all the benefits of what we just talked about, but also one of the side benefits of ionization is we eliminate static charges in the house. So like this, the static electricity reduces on ceiling fans, but also reduces on those fans too, which attract dust to the mini splits. So it helps keep the mini splits longer or cleaner longer. Now, if you notice, this one doesn't self-clean. This one will need to be cleaned. How do I clean this? Compressed air. So just take a can of compressed air and blow it off, or a toothbrush, just knock it off, just to make sure there's no dust on these little brushes. But that's the extent of it. Now, these are AC or DC direct, which is pretty cool. So I can actually take this, which I did, put it in a camper, and it keeps the camp smoke from coming in your camper, which is pretty cool. The high-end camper, we have an OEM that is putting these in, I think it's Coach, that makes some of the travel buses, etc.
Where would you install that in your camper?
What I did it just like that one right there, see? Because my camper has one of those in the ceiling. Yeah, so I actually just like that. I put it on the inside and wired it in. Because the control box was right next to it too, which made it real easy to install. So we have for solutions for on that side, mechanical side, we have the NuShields and the iWaves, both the bipolar to keep the coils clean. We have the Scorpions, and then of course we have all the different chemicals. Just as a reminder, make sure we maintain the system's flowing of the drain, so we don't have problems with drains. We have a whole line of drain treatment. We have the original tabs here, which is the PurCool and the Pan Treat. The difference between the PurCool and the Pan Treat's green, PurCool is white. Found that out because somebody asked me for the green ones. I didn't know there was a green one. I had to actually look it up. I was like, okay, that one's green. And he just liked to watch that green water, he said. So that's the difference in that. But these are shock tablets. So as soon as you use them or put them in, they use up. Where the other ones here are long-term. So this one here actually will last for 3 months. We have the different sizes on these. Get these wet, they stick into place so they don't go anywhere, which is nice. And then they slowly dissolve each time it condensates. So now instead of just something that goes away pretty quickly, we can use these. If I want to get longer term out of them, I can get them wet and I can stack them. And now I get up to 6 months by stacking them. It doesn't have chlorine in there. Chlorine is, of course, it's an ammonium chloride, but not chlorine. There is a difference. So it is a hospital grade quat, is what they call it, ammonium chloride. Now, if you want to stay completely away from the ammonium chloride, we do have the detergent-based ones, which is the green ones. But these both have the pH balancer to them. They're designed to not corrode coils, etc. And then these pan strips are my favorite. This pan strip does have the ability, depending on size, up to 6 months of condensate treatment. This one here is actually 30 tons for 6 months, which is pretty cool. Again, to get them wet, there's no sock, there's no housing. So this thing completely dissolves. I don't have to pull something back out of the drain later. And then we have our traditional ones that's been around forever, but these do have a sock to it with a plastic housing. The only reason we still have these, honestly, is because these are the only one that carries EPA certification against Legionnaires. So if you have something that requires a Legionnaires product, this one is the only one that carries the Legionnaires. So we have the whole family.
Which one's the best one for condensate?
For drop into a condensate pump, I like the little tablets because they fit in the hole real well. So that's the ones I like. If you drop either one of these into a condensate pump, they'd be gone the first day. At least these are going to last you for a little bit longer. If you can put it in a drain before the condensate pump, it's going to last a lot longer. So it's actually better because it's going to feed into the condensate pump and keep the condensate pump clean. Yeah. Now we do have this new enzyme-based gel. We have we have this enzyme drain opener, and then we have a gel treatment for the pan. So what it does is you can spray it on the pan. It leaves a coating of this gel on there, and it eats away into the bacteria. So it's a more environmentally friendly way to keep it clean. Really good for this your drink stations because it eats the syrups. And of course, you know, if we don't have a drain that's flowing, we used to call these things ceiling savers back in the day. And that's why that picture's on there, because you guys know if you got a system clogs up, you can take out a ceiling. Now to keep it, to open it up, we do have the drain sucker. That's actually we were using for our demo here a minute ago. It's multi-use, but it does suction and pressure. So just a little handheld pump. One side is pulls, one side pushes. And then,
has anybody ever used the Gallo Gun? So the neat part about this is all metal, so it doesn't break. And also it takes a 16 or 20 ounce. Yeah. So but the coolest part about this is the rubber band line and T going back to the air handler. So instead of cutting the T and where it doesn't push back, this actually drops past the T, so you get well. So put these in, you guys. So put these in, you guys.
I do ask you guys to load them from the bottom. I found out when guys are trying to load them from the top, they can't get it seated tight enough, and then it doesn't work.
You got. So on this, if you do the 20, there's a 16 and 20, so just make sure it's the right way. So all this, together, all it does is expand. So you see how it expands and then pushes whatever else past the line, so you get the full force to get the full pop to kill a clog. But that's the Gallo Gun.
Yep. So the Gallo Gun itself is sold by itself, comes with a cone, and then that attachment is called the cannon. It's about $20 for the attachment. One of the things too, I always remind people is we talked about a minute ago about our filtration. Our filtration was improved, especially during the pandemic. Why? To catch viruses. How many of you guys have changed the way you're changing filters? What I mean is, are you still like I did back in the day? I was a service tech. throw it in the back of your truck, go to the next call, throw it in the back of your truck, go to the next call, throw it in the back of your truck. It bounces around, and then you bring all that home, right? You're laughing because you're probably still doing that. I know I did. You wait until you find a dumpster somewhere. Unfortunately, if we have one that is able to carry viruses with it, that's what you're bouncing in the back of your truck. So not only are you contaminating from house to house, but you're also taking it back to your house. So unfortunately, we're starting to see more technicians get serious stuff now. RSV a lot more than they have been. And I know a guy that got actually MRSA from a doctor's office because MRSA was on the filter, and who doesn't have a cut somewhere on their hand, right? So they had that problem. What I suggest is you disinfect it before you ever touch it. We sell these little ViroBlasters. It's a little handheld electrostatic sprayer, so it charges the chemical to where it sticks. So that way, it's not, instead of just like a spray, it will stick. You can use whatever you want to use, but this is something we sell. It does have the tablets. The tablets will kill 99.99% of anything you come into contact with. So what I suggest, if it was my company, is actually answer the door with this in your hand. Make it a company policy. Say, hey, before I can work on your system today, I got to deactivate your system. It does two things. One, it does show that you take their health serious. And then it also opens up the conversation for IAQ. Like, hey, if your filter is just a collection of anything in this house, so we're going to make sure that we don't bring something out of that we shouldn't, and then we're not going to, we do this every house we go to. So it's just a way to bring it to their attention right off the bat. Now, can I do odors without these products? We do sell deodorizers, but they are just deodorizers. We have the cherry, the orange, and the regular. I call it Fruity Pebbles is what it smells like. They call it fresh air. But these are used up really quick. They are more point of use, a truck, a bathroom. We have an odor we want to get rid of right away. These are for your system. So these are your odor blocks. We have residential for 2 months, put it in return, 6 months, or a commercial system up to 15 tons for 4 months. Now, the commercial one does have an added benefit. On the bottom, there's a sticker that you pull off. It reveals activated carbon. If you know, activated carbon is really good for absorbing VOCs. So this is a way to put this in the system. It absorbs any VOCs. I get a lot of nail salons that like these because of that real heavy VOC smell in the nail salon. My biggest one, though, is always during prom season. All my school districts love these things because they put them in their gym if they're hosting prom in their gym, so it doesn't smell like a gym. It's kind of funny, but so we can do all these things as well. Like I said, this last one has that activated carbon as well on the bottom. Yeah, the whole box. This one you pull out and put it back in the box. This one you just take your knife and cut and put the box in. And then this one has a sticker on top and stickers on the side to activate the carbon. Now, it is an oxidizer, so it's not just a Febreze. It will, anything around it, it will inactivate any kind of viruses around it, but it's a very short throw. And then we have one for the P-Tax, the mini splits and the P-Tax. It has a sticker on the top and sticker on the bottom. You can take this as, I always tell everybody, if you're servicing the mini splits, it's a great thank you. I'd put my business card sticker on it or somewhere, and it just put it on top. It takes and deodorizes the mini split after you maintenance it. I carry them in the hotel rooms because it's really good for the hotel rooms too, because it will fit inside that P-Tac and it pulls through and deodorizes the whole room while you're in there. Then we do have them in a spray, the orange and cherry, and then unscented. If anybody in here likes a deer hunt like I do, this is the same thing that you descent your clothes with. So I always, during deer season, get me a gallon of the unscented and descent everything I have, because it's the same thing for me. It's very cheap, but for you guys, it's about $20 a gallon. So it's a great product for that. Well, what you do is you get a handful of dirt and just throw it in there and shake it up. So, and the funny thing was a customer turned me on to it. So I was when we started carrying this, he's like, I've been using that for years. And I said, for what? And he's got trophies, bucks all on in his office. He goes, yeah, I get a handful of dirt, throw it in there, shake it up. I was like, oh, okay. So I've been using it ever since. Now we have a great marketing department that do support all of our products. Literature is always free. We have the trifolds that we can, to a point, we can customize some of the trifolds. There is a spot to put your own company name and logo and et cetera on there. But we can work with you on, especially if you're doing the iWaves and the NuShields, et cetera. With our trifolds are very nice. Again, they're free, so it's nice. And then we have a new IAQ Elite program. If you want to sign up for the IAQ Elite program, this program gives you, it's a award program. So for everyone you buy, there's points that you achieve, and then you can buy free stuff. You said you had one customer maxed out last year, right? And they got everything on here. So the grill and the all the other things, and you can build up to and buy all these different things with these up to different gift cards and etc. And again, it's if you're selling it, why not get free stuff for selling it? Now the neat thing is the iWave, the Scorpion. We just started this month a gift card program as well. So you can double up on these, or you can use just the one. But the gift card program is every time you buy one, you get a gift card that will actually give you to spend anywhere. It's $25, I think, on the iWaves and $15 on the Scorpions. So it's just a cash back kind of program, which is kind of cool. Now, how do I sell it? So one of the things I always tell a customer is any kind of add-on products, it does a lot better if you present it when you first get there. The conversation looks this way, is, hey, I'm here to PM your system. Would you mind looking at this while I go do my job? So it's a quick video book. The video shows and talks about what the product does, how it works, etc. And then you go do what you got to do. Come back and say, hey, do you have any questions on it? We got one on the truck. We can put it in today. The other side of it is, and I always tell everybody, the conversation is, hey, here's your bill for me fixing your stuff. I'd like to add to it. Can I show you some products? Because that's how they think it. You know what I mean? They've been waiting for you all day. You finally fix it. You got a $400 bill for replacing the motor. Oh, hey, plus I'd like to put this in for another $600, $700, whatever it is. It's a different conversation. So when you first get there is always a better time to introduce new products. If you want more information on any of our products, we just started our online university. Our online university does carry NATE recertification credits. If anybody in here is NATE certified, they're free NATE recertification credits. I think it's up to 26 hours, which is pretty cool. And each of them's about 5 minutes long. I think the longest is 20 minutes. So you get an hour's worth of credit for watching a video or something like that, but it prints you out a certificate you send in to NATE, which is pretty cool. But if it's your company, you got new guys or new to the trade or new to wanting to move into different areas, it's a great way to see if send them to this site. It sends either way. It'll give them a certificate of completion that they can show you and say, hey, I watched this on Coil Cleaners today. I watched this on. It just shows that they're trying a little bit more. So it is free. It's Nu-Calgon University. It's just our regular NuCalgon.com website.